Welcome to the Sports Porch. Here we are.
The Porch is live. The Porch is live. The Porch is live.com.
Yes, I think I'm in a cell.
Let's do that again.
Yes.
You're in a cell. You are in a cell. Steve is in trouble.
They put me in the basement.
So welcome. Thanks for being here. The Porch is live.com. The Porch is live.com. The Porch is live.com. That is where you can find our website and all of our podcasts. And we want to thank you, of course, for listening on American Busker, iHeartRadio. American Busker iHeartRadio has 150 million registered describers. Yes, registered describers, registered users, 2,000 devices and 260 platforms. And we could not be more grateful to be on iHeartRadio. Thank you, Nancy Hahn.
Thank you, Nancy Hahn. Thank you, iHeartRadio. And thank you, makeup team, for helping us look this good.
That's right.
We need the lighting team in here, though.
Yeah.
I feel like I am in a closet.
We need to get you out of jail is what we need to do.
Yeah.
Maybe next week.
Maybe a collection. Send stars, a collection for Steve. All right, and moving on. Obviously, you can catch the Sports podcast on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere you get your podcasts. And we have something very special tonight. I want to thank our sponsor, Virgin Flooring, www.virginflooring.com, virginflooring.com. A little bit about Virgin Flooring real quick.
What a great logo.
Chris, it is. It's super cool.
Logo.
Yeah, it's super cool. You can't miss the trucks or anything, but Chris is a great guy. Chris at Virgin Flooring, his wife Kathy, they're the nicest people on the planet. They have two showrooms, one in Allison Park, one out here in Murraysville. And I just want to show you guys something. Do you see that picture?
Yes.
That is our bedroom, and that is our flooring down there.
That's not my bedroom.
No.
Looks very nice.
It better not be your bedroom.
Well, you said R, and I was confused.
Very nice.
Well, I mean me and my wife. That's my bedroom.
Do you think you have enough room in that bedroom?
No, I don't.
I think you need 2 more beds in that bedroom. It looks a little
You
empty.
think so?
Yeah.
You think so? You should see our bathroom. Virgin Flooring did our bathroom as well. So listen, guys, if you have any kind of flooring work, they redo bathrooms, tile work, flooring, carpet, manufactured hardwood right now, that manufactured vinyl hardwood stuff. That's what we put in there. And friendliest guys out there. Chris and his team are absolutely incredible. They do incredible work. And they're a local business. I have personal experience with them, or they wouldn't be invited to be a sponsor of this show. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate, and we appreciate Virgin Flooring.
Thank you, Virgin Flooring.
You can never have enough Virgin Flooring.
Absolutely.
You can't.
I love it. Yep. And the play on words continue. So I do want to remind you again, theporchislive.com is where you find us. And look, it's playoff time.
Playoffs.
And obviously we're going to talk about the playoffs. Yep, we're going to talk about the playoffs. I'm going to encourage Steve to kind of talk at the mic a little more just because.
It's hard when I'm in this closet.
Yes, it really.
You want to talk about playoffs?
Yes, we do want to talk about playoffs. Number one. Number two, obviously. And Pat chimes in.
Of course.
4 kids, you need separate bedrooms. Yeah, well, we do have separate
I think he's
bedrooms.
up to 6, but who's counting?
No, it's 7, but whatever.
Yeah,
so, and Pat, we're gonna reconcile this in Key West.
Yes.
All right?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Pat may not make it back from Key West.
He thinks he's going to be dead before we make it there.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean,
it's
that's
possible.
What he keeps saying.
Yeah,
Like,
it's possible.
I think he's going to make it. At this point,
I do too.
4 weeks left. I think he's going to make it.
Actually, Pat is one of the more resourceful people I know. So I think if anybody,
if he died, he would still show up in Key West.
he probably would.
Resourceful.
Yeah, somehow.
I think they made a movie like that.
Yep. Off topic again, boys. All right.
Yep.
Okay, so the Steelers season, obviously, we know it's over right now. News came out this week. Canada is back for sure, much to the chagrin of what it seems entire Steelers nation. Why on earth?
Nobody understands.
Would they bring this guy back? Of course, the rumors started swirling when Tampa Bay was going to let go of Byron Leftwich. I don't know why you would bring Byron Leftwich in here anyway. I get it. I get the past history. But the real question is, why we're looking at a lot of other teams, some who made the playoffs, who released or fired their offensive coordinators. This is a mystery to everybody. I don't think it should be a mystery. This is how the Steelers work. But I will tell you one thing that I started thinking about this week, and this is all the time we're going to spend on the Steelers, is this OC stuff.
Yeah.
Because we want to move on to other stuff. But I think the NFL has passed the Steelers by. I really do. I think from an innovative standpoint, now I am not an analytics guy. Every time there's a game on, what are we doing? We're texting, take the points, take the points.
You are, yeah.
I am, right. But
unless you have Brett Maurer.
The real
Sorry, Cowboys.
Yeah, right.
I know that hurts a little.
The real point I'm making here is that I still think Tomlin is a good coach and a motivational guy, but is it possible that the NFL has now innovated itself past where the Steelers are? And that being said, is it not just a coordinator problem? Is it now a coaching problem? All due respect to Mr. Tomlin.
Yeah.
Well, this is easy. Can I take this?
Yeah, take it.
This is like a softball for me.
Softball.
Absolutely not. And here's why.
Okay.
I know you didn't see this coming. You thought I was going the other way, but
I don't really know these days where you're going, Steve.
yeah. Well,
I don't.
I'll probably take the opposite end.
yeah, you will
okay.
probably.
All right, we'll go for it.
Well, here's the reason. Look at the teams that are left, right? You've got two teams in the AFC who clearly have bypassed the Steelers in talent in their offensive scheming, right?
Right.
But they both have running games. I think Kansas City has less of a running game than Cincinnati, but the reason Cincinnati beat Buffalo because they had a running game, okay? And let's look at the NFC. I mean, how many yards did Philadelphia have rushing? 298 yards rushing? And
yeah, it was a lot.
And what are the 49ers built on? Defense and an okay quarterback play. I mean, Purdy makes the plays when he has to. He doesn't throw the ball for 350 yards. So actually, I think if the 49ers win the Super Bowl, it means really good things for the Steelers because that means defense wins championships, and you only need a half-decent guy who can throw the ball 5 good times a game. Now, Pickett wasn't that good this year, but he could turn into that guy. So actually, I thought when I looked at Burrow and I looked at Cincinnati and I'm like, damn it, I hate so bad that Cincinnati is a good team. And we text about this, right? It drives me absolutely freaking nuts that Cincinnati is going to be in the AFC Championship game 2 years in a row. This team has not won a Super Bowl, and they think they're the cat's meow when they really are just they're kind of hitting pay dirt with Burrow right now and Chase and T. Higgins and Mixon. Once those guys are gone, their defense isn't that great.
Think about this. What did it take to get Burrow, the number 1 pick?
It had to be a loser for like 8 years.
Right.
And not just a number 1 pick.
Right.
Remember, they struggled with Dalton for like what? 6 or 7 years, or they thought that Dalton was good. Like my fear is the Steelers have Dalton right now, and they don't have Burrow, and they're going to be what Cincinnati thought they were, be okay, try and make the playoffs, but not really do anything. That's my fear with the Steelers. But no, I actually don't think it's passed them by. Now, if you want to talk about coaching, I think there are definitely some problems with Tomlin as a coach, but I think the scheme itself isn't that far off with having a great defense, being able to run the ball, and having your quarterback just do enough. What do you think, Mark?
Well, I actually do completely agree with you on the I think the bottom line is you no matter, even though it's an offensive league, it's a passing league, you do have to be able to run the ball to have success. There's no doubt about it. And you're always going to be better off. Like if there's one thing that you do well, you want it to be running the ball, right? So I think the Steelers' mindset there is good. I just think from a coaching point of view, I don't like the way the Steelers are fixated on, it's all about stability. I think they're very proud that they've only had like 3 head coaches in the last 50 years or something, right? But here's the thing, and Tomlin is a good coach. He's not a bad coach. I mean, he's never had a losing season. That's real, right?
Yeah,
so he's not a bad coach. But the problem is, at what point does a message become stale? At what point do you need to just go in a different direction? Like take for example, like let's take the Eagles, for example, right? Doug Peterson is a good coach. They won a Super Bowl with him, and they let him go 3 years after they won a Super Bowl. And that wasn't a bad decision. Jacksonville eventually benefited from getting a good coach, but the Eagles also found themselves another good coach. So I think they're just so caught up in the whole stability thing. And it's almost more like, when they held on to Cowher for like 15 years before he won a Super Bowl. I just feel like it's okay to let go a good coach.
It wasn't 15
and try
years.
Something new.
They hired him in 92. And when did he win a Super Bowl? Oh, yeah.
2007.
Yeah, he went to a Super Bowl in the first 4 years. But okay, yeah.
But I just think the bottom line is I think it's okay to hire to fire a good coach and to try to bring in a coach who might be better.
Yeah, and the entire point that I was making about that was that it's not about all the things you talked about a good defense running the ball. None of that has changed. It's about being able to scheme to that new. I mean, you look at offenses nowadays and look at all the movement, all the misdirection. You look at defenses nowadays and how they try to disguise things. And then you look at the Steelers defense. They didn't really disguise anything. Okay. They would line up and it's like, okay, they're bringing the blitz or they're playing cover 2. There wasn't a lot of movement to disguise it. And obviously we don't have to talk about the offense.
Right.
All right. So what I'm saying is I think that stability that has always been the hallmark of the Steelers organization, which I do think is a good thing for the most part.
For the most part.
I think that the NFL has now changed enough that the Steelers organization needs to start catching up with the idea that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Tomlin is not the kind of guy who's going to innovate. He's going to go with what has always worked. And that's great when the league itself is moving at a slower pace. But now with all these hybrid offensive, these guys that can play 3 positions on offense. I mean, you got McCaffrey. He's lining up in the slot. He's lining up as a wide receiver. He's lining up as a halfback. And once in a while he throws the ball. Okay. Taysom Hill. Look what they do with him in New Orleans. Okay. And you can say, well, Tomlin tried that with Slash. All right. Well, that was Cowher.
That was Cowher.
Right. So I'm not saying that Mike Tomlin needs to be fired. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is this is going to lead to, in my opinion, another year of a lack of passion on that team because these younger players want to play in these new offenses.
I think what would be really nice would be if Tomlin would sort of get out of his own way.
I agree.
He's just very stubborn. He's actually a good CEO type of coach. Look, they never have problems challenging or not too much with any clock management, really too much. I mean, he manages the game pretty well. He motivates and inspires very well. It'd be nice if he just kind of said like, hey, it's okay to have somebody, on the offensive side of the ball that quite frankly is a lot smarter than me on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. Right. And unfortunately, it's
right.
like you're in a catch-22 situation where he's been a head coach for so long. He doesn't want to bring in somebody who might be younger and more innovative to make him look bad when actually it would make him look smarter.
Right.
So I think I agree with you. He needs to get out of his ego. He needs to say a couple prayers about who he wants to hire.
Prayers.
Tomlin's a very religious man, actually. and he needs to think about how he can kind of step aside and let somebody young and innovative come in. I think I agree with you there. On the defensive and the offensive side, look, the only reason their defense was so good, they have like 10 number 1 picks. There's a lot of talent on that side of the ball, but unfortunately, they spent so much money on that side of the ball. Who do they have to get rid of? Mike Hilton. Where is he doing well? I think I saw him doing pretty good yesterday for the Bengals.
Yes.
So that's the problem. The Steelers have spent so much money on their defense to make it so good. They don't got any money left to spend anywhere else. So that's what they got to do. They got to figure out figure out those positions. And Mark, you've said this a lot, and I agree with this. They spent money on the pass rusher. Look, the Bengals got to Allen with no really stud pass rusher.
Right.
They just went and got him. They motivated enough to get him. Right. Mm-hmm. They didn't have a TJ Watt. There's somebody they spent $25 million for, but they do have a really solid defense.
It's an opportunistic.
It's a team.
Defense.
It's a team defense,
right.
and it's hard. It's hard to pick the bad spot because on a defense like the Steelers, it's easier to say, okay, wherever Minka isn't, throw it to the opposite side of the field, and it'll be fine because whoever's over there is going to suck, and it's usually true. And good teams figure that out, and that's I think the Steelers' problem right now. They've tried to put too many number one picks. They're not creating a team, and that's what they need to work on moving forward.
I get just never-ending joy out of the Bengal hate that I get from Steve. No matter what, it's always Bengal hate. They could suck or they could be good. He hates the Bengals, but that makes you a true fan. It makes you a true fan.
Dude, I just hate teams that think they're freaking great.
Yeah.
And they haven't won a Super Bowl. They've only been in 2 Super Bowls in their freaking career, and they lost them both. 0-2, Cincinnati. Let's go.
Yeah.
I will say, I mean, Joe Burrow is very, very good.
Yes.
I mean,
you were not on that bandwagon last year.
No, I've always been.
No, you have not.
Yes.
Has he always been on the Joe Burrow bandwagon?
I've never heard him say too many bad things about Burrow.
Yeah, no.
But then again, I'm always consumed with my own hate. So
I've always thought, I mean, since last year, I thought it was very good. But I will also say he's very cocky and he's kind of unlikable.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And by the way, the moniker Joe Cool. Sorry, there's only one Joe Cool. It's Joe Montana. Joe Montana is the original Joe Cool. The next person that says Joe Cool is this guy over in Cincinnati can go Cincinnati themselves.
There you go. That's a new phrase.
So you know what? So you know what the dream would be. The dream would be that the Bengals are on a Bills-like run of losing multiple Super Bowls in a row.
Well, they're almost there. They're getting there. They're getting there.
No, I want them to experience pain by Burrow experiencing a Mahomes sprain.
Oh,
Maybe first couple plays of the Super Bowl if they make it that far.
Poor Joe Cool. So we got a couple comments coming in. Yo Carey has said Canada,
enough with the Joe Cole.
Canada first. Luke says talking about Tomlin, he needs to open his mind up to new innovative ideas. And he would love to be a fly on the wall in Rooney's office.
I don't think there's a lot of things said in that.
Pat's talking about you. He just hates cinnamon chocolate in his chili. Who wouldn't hate cinnamon chocolate in their
like Cincinnati chili, but I don't think they put chocolate in their chili.
Yeah, and if they do,
I'm with you.
Yep. Snoopy was the original Joe Cool, and I agree with Pat, who follows that up with "Leave my Bills alone, Mark." Don't worry, we got Key West.
I didn't say anything about the Bills.
West. Yeah, they're horrible. They're horrible. Josh Allen is actually his own worst enemy, but we'll get to that in predictions when we talk about the game. All right, so we're going to move on here. Once again, I want to thank you if you're listening on American Busker iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio has 150 million registered users, 2,000 devices, over 260 platforms. And we also want to give a special shout out and thanks to our sponsor tonight, Virgin Flooring, www.virginflooring.com. Please, if you're looking at getting a new floor, new tile in your bathroom, anything like that, get a hold of these guys. Personal experience with them. They are the best. So Steve had an idea for tonight.
I did.
And
my only one of the year.
And
there's no more after this.
Because Mark and I didn't feel like coming up with ideas. We thought this was a good idea. So Steve, I'm actually, Yo Carey says Steve lacking on the cool background game, stepping up. Well, he's in a cell right now. We'll get it there. Don't worry.
They put me in a closet. What can I say, Yo Carey?
We're working on a new studio.
Hockey guys don't mind.
We're going to have a new studio. Yeah, you're right about that. All right. So Steve wants to know, I guess I'll phrase it this way and you correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Is there a city of champions anymore?
That's very good. It's very good because what I did was I looked at the past 10 years and I looked at the big four. Now I know not all cities have the big four, right? Some teams don't have an NBA team. Some teams don't have an NHL team. Some teams don't have an NFL team, which is kind of bizarre, but it's true. And I look back and, I hearken back to the years when the Pittsburgh was the city of champions growing up, and I was on a text with somebody, and he was like, "We're no longer the city of champions. We're now the city of one and done." And I was like, "Man, that's harsh." And then I thought, well, is there really a city of champions right now? So I don't even know the criteria, and I thought that the criteria for what a city of champions is would be good to talk about with you guys. So in the last 10 years, there's actually only been one city who has won all four. And this wasn't in 1 year. This was like in 10 years. It took them to win all four. And that was LA.
And by all four, Super Bowl, NBA,
Super Bowl,
hockey, baseball.
Yep. They did it all. So I thought that was interesting. So the criteria can't be all four in a year because that's not happened in the past 10 years.
What was the original criteria? I mean, back in the day, they called Green Bay Title Town. Okay, Green Bay has one team,
right?
The Packers,
right,
and they won two titles in a row.
It's winning a lot. Like
it's also winning like consecutive
winning
years or 2 or 3 years in a row.
There was a time where like New England, like the Celtics won, the Bruins won, the Patriots won a bunch, and then the Red Sox won a couple.
Okay.
Right.
So,
Is that in the last 10 years?
Well, and like when
Why
we
not?
said City of Champions, it was literally only like baseball and football or football and hockey. So it was only two.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go with the two criteria, which to me is the smallest number, I think the smallest thing you could say for City of Champions. So you could go back to, actually, you just have to go back to 2021. Tampa Bay won, right? They won football and they won hockey. If you go back to 2020, then you got Major League Baseball, the Dodgers and the Lakers. Now, I don't know if we should talk about this. Do COVID championships count?
Yeah. They're championships. We had this argument before, and you made the argument that it was a championship no matter what.
Well, let me put it this way. It counts, but it's lesser.
I agree.
And that was your exact argument.
Right. Like, so for example, like the Houston Astros trash can championship.
2017.
It counts, but it's lesser. To be honest with you, I'll tell you another one that I almost consider lesser is last year's LA Rams. Like, what are they, the Rams for 1 year? I mean, when did they move from St. Louis? They don't even have any fans.
Yeah. Well, they were the Rams for 2 years.
2 years?
They were the
They
Rams.
lost in the championship game the year before.
Yeah. I mean, it's like.
Or no. They went to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff, and they lost.
Right. But was that with the Rams?
No, that was LA.
That was LA.
Maybe they've been there for 4 or 5 years
yeah,
or something.
Yeah, they were there for a year before their stadium.
It's like they weren't even playing in a real stadium.
But this just proves the whole point about about LA and the fans.
Yeah.
I mean, we're NFL guys. Okay.
Right.
We can't even remember how long the Rams have been
right.
there.
I mean, the Dodgers fans show up in the 5th inning.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now, let me get some comments in here first. Luke says he enjoys our show from Indianapolis. Thanks, Luke.
All right, Luke, welcome to the show.
He says too many Campbell soup commercials. My buddy Jeff Paulus from the shit town of York, PA. I love you, York, PA. Says criteria would be at least 2 in the same year. If Philly wins a Super Bowl, then the Phillies win next year. I would say they could be a city of champs, in his opinion. You could do the same with baseball and a basketball team, etc. Pat says Houston Rockets when MJ was out, lesser. So
you're going to the Wayback Machine. We're only going back 10 years. So really, those were the only two. Tampa Bay and LA were the only two that had that. Now you had DC who won the NHL in 2018, and then they won baseball in 2019. Would you consider that to be a city of champions?
Well, I mean, if you're
what city?
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C.
It's
who won?
It's the District of Columbia.
The Nationals?
The Capitals
the
and the
Nationals.
Nats. Yeah, the Capitals and the Nats.
And the Caps won. The Caps won first, and then the Nats won after them.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't see it as like
you just don't want to.
You
just don't want to.
No, but what I'm saying is like the Nationals. I mean, granted, there was a Nationals way back when.
You're right.
But they're still sort of a relatively new team.
Well, they were the Senators.
Yeah, like most people who grew up, when we grew up, from Washington, D.C. are Orioles fans. You
Very
know?
true. Yeah,
So it's
very
like
true. That's
it's
true.
so it's like you know
Yeah.
it's kind of like, hey, should we root for the new team?
But still,
It's kinda
I
like
mean,
the Ravens.
even though they're a
Yeah.
new team, they play in
It's
that
kind of like
city.
it's
yeah.
kind of
or
like the
in
Commanders.
the district, in the
Yeah.
case of District of
I
Columbia.
think, to be honest, I think what this kind of points out right now is that there number one, there is no city of champions.
I agree.
I also think that it's harder now than it's ever been before, because all the playoff formats are expanded so greatly that you have to win so many games to win. You know, like you got to go through, like in hockey and basketball, you got to get through like 4 rounds, right?
Oh yeah,
5
4
rounds
rounds of 7-game series.
Right.
In
You know,
hockey.
right.
That's
You know,
the most ridiculous.
right. I mean,
thing to
it's
do.
it's so long, and you know, and even baseball, you got to get through 162 and like win around 95 games to make the
Maybe
playoffs.
even the play-in game.
You know, yeah, the play-in game, yeah, and even
Well,
in,
they're having a play-in game now in NBA too now, right?
yeah, they're playing in
Yeah.
NBA.
Okay.
So it's just a lot harder, I think, and I also think it's harder because in years past, it was more a situation where players stayed with their teams longer.
Yeah.
And now with free agency, and just kind of more power in the players' hands,
Yeah,
there's a lot more player movement, so it's hard to keep teams together as well.
that's absolutely true.
Okay, so one last question before we go on to our predictions. Who was the original City of Champions?
Well, Pittsburgh, of course.
Right. And why was Pittsburgh the City of Champions?
Well, I think they were because they won so many Super Bowls in such a short period of time.
Yeah, well, it actually started.
And then I think, the hockey team kind of caught on.
No, you're totally wrong.
And then the Pirates jumped on that bandwagon.
No, you're totally
in
wrong. The
79.
Pirates won the World Series in 1970 and 1971. They beat the Orioles. I would know.
Mhm.
Okay. Then they won 4 Super Bowls.
Mhm.
Then they repeated beating the Orioles again in 79. That's the City of Champions. That's why they had 7 championships in 9 years between their
Yeah.
2 sports teams.
And that's what New England was. That was
Well,
the
New
reference.
England only had
1, 2,
has
3,
4.
4, 5.
Okay.
So New England
5. Sorry, 5.
But I think in the 10 years before that.
But if
New
you
England
count the
has-
last 10 years, they've had 2 from Boston and 3 from the Patriots. If you can count the Patriots, Boston.
Okay, so the originals, now fans in Green Bay would disagree, but they call it Titletown, and that was 2 Super Bowl wins.
Yeah.
But Lombardi won a bunch of NFL championships before it was called the Super Bowl in Green Bay. They were on a string.
Yeah,
So you
right.
could kind of make that argument in a way, but they never called it the City of Champions. The name, the City of Champions, was originated in Pittsburgh because of that 9-year span.
7 and
where-
9 years.
That's right, 7 and 9 years.
Well, I can tell you nobody in the past 10 years has that. So in using that
Right.
criteria, you're 100% right.
Okay.
And I'm going to agree with you.
Yeah, well, of course you are, but it's not about that. Shouldn't be the criteria. See, I don't think you can put a criteria on it. That's the point.
Well,
it's kind of like
I-
there was a decade there where Pittsburgh was the City of Champions.
Well, I mean, if you go
You know.
back from New England, if you take 2019 and you go backwards in time 10 years, you could easily say New England.
But
because
think about this.
In
Right.
Boston.
Okay,
because
so-
they definitely dominate.
Right.
70, 71. When did they win their first Super Bowl? 74,
74.
70, 71, 74,
Actually,
back to back.
75, 76.
Okay, 70, 71, 75, 76,
Mhm. Skip a year. And then 2
78,
more years, 78,
and then
79.
2 and 79.
Technically
Steelers.
1980, but yeah.
Okay, so out of those 9 years, 7 championships.
Yeah.
I mean, there was rarely a year that went by when they weren't having a parade downtown.
Yeah.
That's the City of Champions, and you're welcome. You're welcome, Pittsburgh fans, for sorting that out. Because your resident Yinzer here, Steve. He's the one that was questioning that. I mean, really?
Well, I know about the Pittsburgh. I was just questioning if currently there is, and Mark
Yeah.
actually verified what I thought, which was
Yeah, there
no.
isn't.
The answer is no. There is no city of champions. Pittsburgh will always be the city of
That's
champions,
right.
even if currently they are the city of one and done.
There you go.
Let's go on the NFL
All
picks.
right, moving on. Okay, I did update the picks for last week to add the Tampa Bay game. And this past week, this was a crazy one. Okay, so Mark, Steve, and Chris all had the Jags. Chris was the Jablonski that picked the Giants to win over the Eagles.
Jablonsk.
Chris, however, did pick the Bengals over the Bills, and that one I just picked the Giants to piss Mark off. The Bengals over the Bills. I love Joe Cool, and Mark and Chris were on the Purdy train. Steve picked the Cowboys. So now our records are: Mark is 8-2.
By the way, I was wrong about Dak.
Mark was
You know where he's rumored he's going to the Raiders now. Everybody's saying
his career's over.
He's not going in.
No, he's not. Mark is now 8-2. Steve is
I don't think they want
6-4, and Chris is 6-4. We only got 3 more games basically. So if I go 3-0,
you would have to pick against whatever.
I would have to lose every game.
Yep, and that's what's
It's
going to
possible,
happen.
And then you guys would have to win
You are
every game.
tainted by the Eagles,
Yeah. So
but if they lose, then you don't have to worry about picking them in the Super Bowl.
So Sunday's game, 49ers at Eagles. That's the first game, right?
Yep.
Sunday's game, 49ers at Eagles.
Am I supposed to pick first because I'm leading?
Yes, you're the winner. You're the champion.
Yeah, I got to write this
All right,
down now.
okay.
49ers, Eagles. All right, go for it, Schwab.
I think it's going to be very, very tight, but I'm going to take the Eagles 24-23.
Okay, so Mark's got the
A
Eagles.
1-point win.
I like the Eagles myself, 22-21.
22-21.
Safety?
All right.
No. Lots of field goals from Elliott.
Okay.
I see lots of field goals in his future.
And listen, man, Brock Purdy, Hall of Fame. The guy's got ice in his veins. Listen, interesting. Did you see the graphic yesterday that they put up? The Niners offense before Purdy and after. So you could say what you want about all the weapons he has and discount the defense because they're one of the top scoring offenses in the league. Defense is great, but you would think.
How well did he play yesterday?
Hold on a second. In the games that
he's going to be under duress.
Yes.
In the games that he took over, their scoring, their yards per game went up after he took over the offense. I'm telling you,
they're not going to hold the Eagles to less
I'm picking
than
the
20
49ers
points.
in this game. I'm picking the 49ers.
Hey, if the 49ers can hold the Eagles to less than 20 points, they'll win.
And
it's that simple.
Probably,
I just don't think they will.
Okay,
And
Bengals.
and will Jalen Hurts fumble the ball? He hasn't.
Bengals at
Just
Chiefs.
don't give it to Boston Scott at the goal line.
He's not the 49ers killer. He's the Giants killer. All right. Bengals at Chiefs. Schwaber, what do you got? Now, Patrick Mahomes is hurt, no doubt. No way you come back from that injury in a week.
I got to go with the Bengals just because, and it's solely on Mahomes' health. If Mahomes was 100%, I would tell you Chiefs, but I got to go with the Bengals here.
All right, Mark's going with the Bengals.
You can't make me take the Bengals.
The
Bengals could be playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I would take the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I know that.
You're looking for the Henny game.
I don't know. I honestly, this is a pick'em game to me. I think anybody could win this game. I don't think they need Mahomes. I don't think the Bengals defense is as good as they were in Buffalo. I think they benefited from the snow tremendously. I don't think they're going to get the snow in Kansas City. I think it's going to come down to who has the ball last.
All right, so I'm going with the Chiefs because I just got to do the opposite of Mark. The point is to try to win. And you know what? In all honesty, I definitely think the Bengals can win. They know how to play the Chiefs. But the one thing I'm going to give to the Chiefs this time around is that Andy Reid's a pretty smart guy too.
That's the one thing that's in the Bengals' favor.
I know that, but that's
You
coming.
can outsmart us.
That's coming from a former Eagles fan. That's coming from an Eagles fan. All right. So
I
I'm
actually
going.
think the Chiefs will benefit from having to run the ball more.
I'm going with the Chiefs.
I mean, they can play a good game if they structure it right.
It'll come down to turnovers.
All right.
Always does.
Okay, so one thing I want to remind you guys of, first of all, is that you can catch our podcast on the iHeartRadio app. You can subscribe to it there. Anywhere you get your podcast, please follow the podcast. Send us a review. And if you're listening on American Busker, iHeartRadio, thank you so much for that. After every single Penguins game, win or lose, the Hockey Jesus preaches on the podcast.
Jesus.
So if you sign up for the iHeartRadio app for the podcast on that or anywhere, you can get the notifications. And I think he does a pretty bang up job, to be honest with you. I mean, that's commitment right there. DG is in the house, joining late, but still good to see you guys. Thanks,
Hey,
DG,
David, welcome
as
aboard.
always, for being here. So anything you want to preach to us on here, Hockey Jesus?
Here's what I want to talk about the Penguins. You know, this is the time of year where it's win one, lose one, play against teams you should beat, you tie some, you win some, you lose some. There are no highs, there are no lows. You're just kind of going along. It's mid-season, right? It's the doldrums of hockey. And when you play 82 games, there's a lot of doldrums.
Yeah. I can sense that.
Right?
I can sense that.
Right.
Right.
So you kind of have to go with the flow. So what's going on with the Penguins right now is they are getting some of their key players back. They had a lot of injuries, and any team that goes through a hockey season has a lot of injuries. So this is not unique to the Penguins. They will get Chris Letang back at some time. I think that will help the power play. What they have to figure out is what the hell they're doing with their bottom six. Their top six have scored like 22 of the last 25 goals, which is just way too much. Like in a playoff situation, your top six are going to get shut down. It always comes to secondary scoring. The third line has been tried lately to bring Bluger up.
That was lame. You got to do that again.
Bluger update. They bring Bluger up from the fourth line to put him on as the third line center and put Carter out to the wing. Look, Carter has hit a wall. I think this guy is like officially retired, but he's just skating. Like he literally filed his papers for retirement, but yet he's still out there with the uniform on. Like
right.
he can't get the pucks. He's no longer good on the penalty kill. He just looks slow. Like literally, I think if he comes back from the All-Star break, which isn't a week, and he still looks like this, the guy's shot. He'll be done. I think he just needs a break. And I really wish they would sit him, but they can't because they have so many injuries. And a lot of their injuries right now are with the fourth line. They got Archibald, who really is he's kind of a spark plug guy. You know, the guy who runs around and hits everybody and hits everything. You're like, oh, I like that guy, but he never scores a goal. But he kind of, you know, he can get the team going, right? So if they put Bluger back on the fourth line with Paling and with Archibald, I think the third line will figure itself out. I think the third line will be probably the Bluger line, and the Carter line will be the fourth line, but they'll still, you know, they'll never say Carter's on the fourth line center. But that's what they need to figure out, secondary scoring. Their defense, I think, are doing a better job of knowing when to join the play and knowing when not to give up 2-on-1s. I think they're doing a better job with replacing with the forward in the back. But look, they're right at that spot where it's like, well, we're on the cusp of a playoff position. If we win 3 or 4 in a row, then, you know, we'll be comfortable. If we lose and win and lose and win, then we'll be uncomfortable. You know, teams like the Flyers are kind of nipping at their heels. Florida, who they'll play tomorrow night, they're right there. They're like further away from the Devil or from the Rangers, who are like in a good spot. They're like in the second or third spot in the Metro. Than that distance to where the Flyers are, which is like they're like 2 teams out of the playoff spot. So they're like right in that spot where it's a little scary, but the Penguins don't seem to be scared. I think it's because they're so old. They've seen this. They know what to do. And that's what to look for. So what to look for this week is they play Florida and they play the Capitals, and then they finish on Saturday against San Jose. And San Jose is not a good team. So what I'd like to see them do is at least win one, get a loser point. Once again, I hate loser points. That's a topic for another day. But if they can get 5 points out of the next 6, I think they'll be fine. If they get 4, they'll be okay. If they only get 2, you might see Hextall picking up the phone and making some calls to make some moves or do something.
Well, that's DG's.
That's
DG's question right now. Steve, who do you think is on the trading block for the Pens?
Well, David, here's the problem. They really can't trade any. They have to trade, right? They can't like just pick somebody up because they're in cap hell right now, and so they can't really trade any of their top guys. And right now, trading Zucker, which is probably the only guy they could trade, would be just the dumbest thing they could do because he's probably, after Sid and Gino, is probably the third best person on their team. And he's the only one that goes around and hits, kind of like Archibald does, but he does it on the second line. I don't think they can trade anybody, honestly. I mean, I don't know who you would want to trade. Like, you wouldn't want to trade POJ, a young defenseman, because he seems to be getting it together. You don't want to trade Pedersen. He seems to be getting it together. Dumoulin, nobody wants. He's probably not going to be back next year. He's in the last year of a contract. So the problem is the guys you would want to trade are not tradable. So the best thing they can do is they maybe make a trade for like draft picks and get like a bottom 6 guy who might, play like Archibald does, somebody who runs around and hits people, who isn't very valuable. Maybe he's only like 500,000 or 1.2 million on the cap, and give up some draft picks. That's about the only thing they can do. I mean, there's not much they can do. And they don't need to shake up their top lines. It's the bottom lines where they need to do it. They did bring up Drew O'Connor, who is more of a straight line player. When I see him play, he kind of plays like he kind of plays like Recchi a little bit, but he's not
wrecking ball.
But he's not he's not nearly as talented. I don't want to say he's as talented, but he plays like that. He goes straight to the net. He he's not a skater who goes like this, like Malkin does, and he dipsy doos and he stick handles. He just goes right to the net with the puck and he just shoots it really hard. So I like him. I think he could be a third line guy, but he's rough around the edges. And he's only scored once. Actually, he's one of the 2 goal scorers on the bottom 6 that's actually scored.
All right. Well, listen, let's see. Let's check the comments here. Have you seen Zucker's wife? Can't get rid of him just because of her. She must be attractive.
She's smoking. Yeah, she's smoking.
Although, do we really know Brad's taste?
Yeah.
Brad has good taste. If you saw Zucker's wife, you would agree with Brad.
Oh, that's hilarious. So, and our apologies to Zucker.
Well, okay. I mean, they got to make a decision about Zucker, whether they want to sign him to an extension or let him go to free agency in the off season. So right now, it's a tough call because he's been hurt so much for the Penguins. But if he would have done what he did the last 3 years, this year, they would have been a much better team in the playoffs.
All right, so there's your Hockey Jesus update. Remember, after every Pens game live on the iHeartRadio app, you can hear the Hockey Jesus preach and recap, and we throw it up on social media. Please want to encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, and thank you for listening on American Busker iHeartRadio. I want to give a special shout out to the sponsor of our show, our sponsor tonight, Virgin Flooring, virginflooring.com. Thanks so much, Chris. Great place, 2 showrooms, one in Allison Park, one in Murraysville. These guys do a fantastic job. Visit them at virginflooring.com. And hey, we got a weekend of playoff football coming up.
Just Sunday.
We got some hockey.
Sunday.
What are we going to do on Saturday?
We're running out of games.
Yes.
Oh, my God, a free day.
And 2 more comments before we fire up the music and get out of here. Patrick Donovan says, Hockey Wives are a smoke show. And Luke says he appreciates our show, and we appreciate
Thank you, Luke.
Welcome back.
Luke, thank you
Come
very
back
much.
next week.
Yep, absolutely. And and with that, that's about it. That's about it, guys. I think we are. I messed up the music again because I always do that. You'll hear that on the podcast. But I think that's it, guys. We're out. We'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
Peace out.